to the next installment of How to Build a Business in South Dade. My name is Kenneth Wright, and I'm on the board of directors at South Dade Chamber of Commerce. We're here courtesy of the Community News, and each week we feature a different South Dade Chamber guest. And today I'm very, very happy to not only introduce a guest, but a good friend of mine, CK Charles Stoner. CK, welcome to this program today.
Thank you so much, Ken. I appreciate that. I'm very excited, nervous, but I appreciate the call.
Well, again, what we try and do is figure out how can we build our businesses in South Dade. And you being a fairly long-standing business person has been pretty successful at that. So tell us a little bit about your backstory.
So the backstory, I'm in the insurance business.
Really?
Thank you. Yeah.
What's the name of your business?
So Stoner Insurance Service, Inc. We're also known, we operate under First State Insurance and Notary. So the backstory there is that we've been in Homestead. We opened up in 2003. So we're excited because this year is going to be our 20th anniversary opening up. Yeah, operating in Homestead.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a lot to be said for 20 years in business.
Yeah. It goes by quick though. It goes by really, really quick. So
how did you how did you decide to put your, foot down in the insurance business?
Well,
where'd that come from?
Yeah, good question. So my father, my late father actually was in the insurance business after he retired from the Army. He was a career military guy. And after he retired from the military, went into sales and ultimately ended his career in the insurance business. So he had a small agency way back when, we're talking back in maybe the 80s, so, going to school, myself going to school and helped him out in the office a little bit, got my license. So I've been literally in the insurance industry. I got my license about almost 40 years ago, so a long time. Going back to the question, the backstory. So I worked up, working in various insurance agencies and whatnot. And ultimately, before opening up our office in Homestead, I ran multiple agencies in Broward County.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this was like, again, pre, 20 years back, whatnot. So, started a family. We've been Homestead residents for many, many years. So mid 70s actually when my family actually moved down here in Homestead. So insurance is my background, and then ultimately started the family, and then got really tired back then. Pre 20 years driving back and forth to Broward County gets it's a lot worse now than what it was back then. But just wanting to spend more time with my family, and then my son was born. So that's ultimately the decision that we made, to like, hey, you know what? Instead of commuting, let's open up our own little business, that type of thing.
So what has been the biggest challenge of running a business that you
recently or in the beginning
I guess part of it is just what you've learned over 20 years. And if someone else was trying to establish a business in South Dade, the kinds of things that you might want to make sure that they had on their radar.
I think the biggest challenge is nowadays is really providing a service that your customers and clients are happy and they appreciate the value what you're doing for them. Times are so different now compared with what it was 5-10 years ago, and of course 20 years ago. But I think the challenge that business owners face is being able to provide valued service. Finding good staff. That's always a big challenge. At the end of the day, keeping and operating a business, keeping everybody happy, your customers as well as your staff, and also at the end of the day, making a buck, I guess, so to speak, making, doing something that you enjoy.
So you said trying to keep your clients happy, right? Trying to keep people happy. Yeah. So why would someone choose to come to Stoner Insurance?
You know, insurance is a necessity, right? You know, so and insurance, you know, the industry itself, you know, you know, you're in the insurance industry up to a point. Um, it's something that's not tangible that people need, right? It's very, very important. You know, automobile insurance, for example, you're required by law. But everything else, you know, if you're not required, it's very, you know, sometimes it's difficult to, you know, to present that to your client, you know, why you need it, you know, that type of thing. So, but yeah, you know,
But why
it's
Stoner Insurance?
well, you know, we build our business. I think, you know, like what, you know, we really uh, want our customers to feel comfortable with us, and we want them to, um, you know, realize the importance of you know, of insurance, right? And you know, having you know, being able to protect the financial, um, you know, for their families and whatnot. So you know, we build based, you know, in each individual client at a time, one at a time, so to speak, right? As opposed to saying, you know, come, you know, come to us because of price. You know, we want to present to you the value and the importance of insurance. And you know, we're a people person, and we like to connect with our customers. We build relationships, you know, that type of thing, with our clients, right?
Well,
So
I know
yeah.
you had someone, one of your clients came to me a week or so ago,
Mhm.
and only had great things to say about the relationship that you've had over the last umpteen years or whatever.
Right.
Just what a great guy you were, how easy you were to work with, which I think is critically important today because customer service is critical to keeping people happy today.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, it's again, you know, one individual, one client at a time. You know, so we really do invest a lot of time, and we try to, you know, building that relationship is you know, teaching, maybe educating our client a little bit about insurance so they understand the concept behind it.
So
Because
tell me, I mean, what? So let's do it. Hi, Mr. Stoner. Why should I have insurance?
well, first of all, what do you need? You know, in other words, you know, we need to address, you know, what your needs are and what your wants are,
And what
right?
do you mean by that?
So,
What my
meaning
needs
that,
are?
you know, you'll come to us saying, you know, I need automobile insurance, for example, right? So, well, you know, let's get into it. You know, instead of saying that, well, let me get your information and we'll give you a quote, you know, before we get into that, you know, I always like to know, you know, what your history is, like you said, you know, what's your backstory, right? So that kind of enables us to be able to provide you with, uh, you know, talking about automobile insurance, let's say, you know, you come to, you know, where did you have your coverage before? Did you have any issues? What is it that you're looking for? You know, sort of let's analyze it, you know, before we get into, okay, well, here's your, you know, three choices, you know, your quotes and proposals, you know, instead of doing that, you know, initially we like to get, you know, we like to engage and get to know you a little bit better, you know. Have you had good experience, bad experience? Why you're looking for insurance? You know, that type of a thing. You know, did you have a bad experience, or are you shopping for a better price? You know, I mean, insurance in Florida is very, very difficult. It's a difficult marketplace, right? So, you know,
Talk about that a little bit more.
well, which part?
Well, you're the one that said it. It's a difficult marketplace.
Well, I mean, you know, everybody's heard about the homeowners problem, the homeowners insurance problem, right?
But there's been a big shift in that, right? Now there's some new legislation that's made that hopefully address some of those issues.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see. You know, I mean, you know, January 1st, they did pass some new legislation, new laws into effect. I just had a recent conversation with a client of ours. And again, you know, does that mean I'm going to, you know, they're when they reached out to me, they're asking, does that mean that my rate's going to change? You know, I mean, unfortunately, immediately, no, you know, probably not, you know, but the new legislation moving forward, hopefully, will make these changes that may reduce the cost of homeowners insurance.
Are you familiar at all with the legislation?
Well,
and how
some
it's
of it,
work?
yeah, there's some new laws. I don't know. I'm not entirely familiar with all of it, you know, because again, you know, I mean, it's one of those things that's passed. You know, we do stay, you know, with the industry, you know, updates and whatnot. But you know, my feeling, as long as we've been in business, is that there's the homeowners insurance speaking about the homeowners insurance is that there's a long list of issues that's created this problem.
Like what?
So, well, the biggest is, always they talk about fraud.
Okay.
Talking about homeowners insurance, but insurance in general. Also, I don't want to get into too much detail because
Right.
but there's just a list of issues that has posed this challenge with the homeowners market.
Well, at least we hope that if they don't, if the rates don't go down, they will go up at a much smaller rate, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the hope of
Yeah.
all the homeowners,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Again, conversations that we have with, talking about building relationships with our clients, we talk about these things. And, of course, initially it's about why is my rate so high? Why is this, why are we having all these problems? But, in reality, when you think about it, everything has changed. The cost of living has, changed drastically, increased, unfortunately, right? So, those things, do relate to insurance, just like any other commodity. The other day I'm at the grocery store and eggs are costing me like $8 for eggs. I don't know. I'm like, what?
$8 for
Yeah,
eggs.
you don't know that? I mean, really, so, not to say that
You must buy those cage-free organic, like grown in special.
no, we like, like in Publix, I don't, like we like the big 38 or 36,
no wonder they're $8.
Yeah, man, they're 8, 10, I mean, just, but yeah, it's the cost of living itself has gone up, and that also, has impacted the cost of insurance, homeowners insurance, property insurance, as well as automobile insurance as well.
Right. So the rates have gone up. Let's talk about some success stories, though, that you have, because you've been in
With my
business for
clients?
20 years. Yeah.
Man, Ken, we've had so many success stories.
Just give me one.
So recently, one of the things about insurance, and one of the things that I really, really enjoy about insurance, is being able to provide something that kind of ties in with people's dreams. And let me explain a little bit. So recently, one of my new clients came to us, was referred, by a friend of ours, and it's so they purchased the restaurant. So what happens when people buy businesses or, start up a business is their hopes and dreams. Somebody that in the restaurant business, you're, cook or chef or whatever, and ultimate goal is to, be able to save enough money, invest, and invest and get your own, business.
And that's a tough business.
It's a very tough business.
Right. So whatever you can do to make it easier. Yeah, whatever you can do to make it easier for someone.
Yeah, we like to. So long story short, so the client.
It can be a long story. We don't need to be short.
Oh, okay. Well, long story long, I guess, right? Anyway, so came to us, was referred, and purchased the restaurant. They closed the deal, and at the 12th hour, literally, they couldn't get the keys to take possession of the restaurant, of the space. And what took place was the landlord, of course, when they with a lease, the landlord requires certain insurance requirements.
Right.
And they tried to obtain insurance, apparently, from another company, and they weren't able to get the coverage that the landlord wanted.
It had to be really frustrating.
Yeah, at 12th hour, everything is
yeah.
signed, and they thought they had it.
Right, sure.
And what happens? Anyway, they were referred to us, and again, that conversation that we had. Well, what's going on? As opposed to, oh, let me just get you the insurance. So they, told us what had happened, the problems that they were faced with, and we looked at it, analyzed it, and basically, the state of Florida, again, talking about insurance sometimes being a problem, sometimes being a crisis, is crazy. Anyway, the coverages that the landlord was, wanting, just wasn't viable. It wasn't available, because of the insurance carriers and whatnot. don't want to go into too much detail, but anyway, that's what took place. And what did we do? And knowing that that's not something that was available that they're going to be able to get, we kind of went back and forth, and we were able to have them, get in touch with the property manager or the lease, the landlord, whoever was, the representative, and kind of explain to them, hey, this is great, but unfortunately, it's not available. So we were able to present them,
Wow.
Something that was close to, but it wasn't 100%. And they, the landlord did accept it, and ultimately they were able to get the keys, and there they are. So
when are we going to this restaurant?
well, I don't want to tell, here's the thing. Well, speaking of restaurants, so one of the things that I love in insuring, my little niche is businesses, mom and pop businesses, and commercial insurance. So you have the personal lines and the commercial ones.
So
right?
okay, so you like doing mom and pop businesses?
I love that because that's a great example of why. Because here they are. I'm a mom and pop business, right? So I'm a mom and pop.
So I want to stay with this for a second, because what it sounds like is that this other insurance company, all they did was say, what do you need? And when they couldn't get it, well, you can't get it. Versus, what do you need? Let's go back and figure out what we can do, because that's not available. Let's really make sure we understand what's going on here so we can solve your problem. So that's the step that you took.
Yeah.
That this other insurance company sounds like it didn't really do the deeper dig.
Yeah, apparently. That's that's pretty much what took place. But I was just happy that we were able to do something, and they were able to resolve the problem that they had, and hopefully open up the restaurant. So this happened recently. So there were other anyway. But in a nutshell.
Yeah, in mom and pop businesses. So anybody
because,
who's trying to establish something small or something new or something.
Yeah. And a lot of the again, insurance can be very complicated. So you're in this case, you're a chef, you're a cook, you want to open up it doesn't matter. I run into some of my customers are contractors and painters and one-man operations, family, young, so these are typical clients that I love, helping, because it's just like you need to get insurance, otherwise you can't operate.
Right.
And they don't know, they just know that, oh, you need 1 million, 2 million, whatever. They have no idea, and you really don't expect them to. It's just like if you're a contractor or whatever, and so goes with same thing with automobile insurance, homeowners insurance, the same thing. So, but that's a part of what I find I enjoy the most. If you want to call it rewarding or whatever. So
yeah, well, helping people get
Yeah.
their business launched and running and be successful, providing that piece that's so critical.
Yeah.
Like you said, especially when a business has to have certain insurance to meet certain licensing requirements or leasing requirements,
Right.
and really understanding what you can provide for them to help them accomplish that. I think that would be very rewarding.
Yeah.
So how do you get most of your? So we already talked about retaining business, what you do to keep your business. How do you find new business?
That's a great question. So, first of all, one of the things that we kind of like, I think we jumped, and again, I said I was nervous, but whatever. So the business name is First State Insurance and Notary.
Right. And notary.
So, and Notary, yeah, I throw that in there because So anyway, I want to answer your question. How do I find? Majority, probably, I don't know, 90%, if not more, because we do we do some advertising. I'm not gonna, make up story, but referrals,
Mm-hmm.
Referrals. And it's interesting question. I thought about that, as in, in our industry, traditionally, life insurance, for example, I started in the life insurance business when I was younger. And basically, sign up and pay for mailing lists, right? So those are technically referrals, right? Because you're sending out and people are sending in, oh, I'm interested in so-and-so insurance, and, those are referrals. But for us, referrals from clients And interestingly enough, from non-clients that we've engaged in, people have come across to us, and for whatever reason, we weren't able to sell them the insurance. Doesn't matter. But sometimes, we'll find customers that come to us that we're, because we always ask, how did you hear about our office? Or, so-and-so sent me. Sometimes they'll name, And interestingly enough, sometimes they'll be from customers that don't have insurance with us, that didn't buy insurance from us, And so I always find that interesting. And so for me, what that tells me is that, we engaged with this prospect, right? This individual or whoever. And we may not have connected, and we weren't able to provide them what they were looking for, as in, whatever insurance that they may have been looking for.
Right.
And yet they refer business to us, meaning that we must have meant something, to that individual, right? For them to think highly of us,
to want to make a referral.
Yeah.
Sure, to send someone to you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I mean, referrals are, probably, the bulk of our, in our case, business.
Right. So we're here under the auspices, of Community News. Thank you, Community News.
Thank you.
And also
Grant, Michael.
South Dade Chamber of Commerce. So as members of the Chamber of Commerce, how do you see the role of the Chamber in helping support your business? And is there anything that you would like to see the Chamber do more of, or how does that all fit with your idea of your business? And
well, again, a part of me being in the insurance business or sales business is, I'm a people person.
Right.
So I think it's important for the Chamber, the same principle. It's just engaging with the members, right? Like what we're doing here. I think that's beautiful. I think that's a great idea. And I don't know how big the membership is now.
And we'll see you at the breakfast on Thursday.
Oh, did I say that would be great? But I have other, Anyway, but yeah, so things like that. Which, I mean, we've been members since we opened. So basically,
wow,
yeah,
20 years.
20 years. We're going to go on 20 years with you guys. So I'm happy to say.
With us.
Yeah.
It's not just you guys, it's us.
Well,
we are the Chamber.
Well, us. That's true.
We are the Chamber.
But yeah. So,
so
but
you're
engaging.
Engaging.
Yeah. I mean, things like this and, the networking. One of the things, we talk about me providing insurance to mom and pops.
Mm-hmm.
And I think traditionally what, when we first signed on with the Chamber, basically, I'm opening my business, I'm, brand new in Homestead, although I've been in the insurance industry for many years or whatever, but so it's like a helping hand, and with any organization, networking, otherwise, as long as, you engage with the membership and keep us informed and, present, for other businesses that are opening up, that, hey, consider the Chamber, because, it's a place that can not necessarily, again, we talk about that whole thing with the referral business, and I think that's, it's great, but at the end of the day, what can, myself, Stoner Insurance, as a member, do for the Chamber? I think that also is important to keep in mind as well. So meaning that when you have new members that come, maybe introduce, members.
Yeah, that's
Things
really
like that.
Yeah, that's really an interesting thing, because there is a new member meeting that happens, let's say once a month, and it really is great when Chamber members, current members, attend those meetings to just get to know the new businesses.
Incoming.
Yeah, and it provides value to the new business, but also provides value to the members that are there, because they're the first ones that are exposed to that business, and people do business with people that they know.
Yeah. So
that's going to happen more often.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, like I said, First State Insurance and Notary, so one of the things, I wanted to mention and bring up is that the whole thing, we have basically two sections. We do the insurance, excuse me, and then also we do the notary business. So here's something that's interesting. So the reason why I want to bring that up is I don't think like we like the chamber is the members. There's businesses that are we're talking about attorneys, realtors,
Mm-hmm.
banks. Excuse
Bless
me, I'm
you.
so sorry.
It's okay, man.
Um, so the notary business that we do is very interesting because we're a bonding agency in the state of Florida. There's basically 20 of us, I think, at last count. And we're one of the state governs, the governor's office actually.
What does that mean? Because go on ahead. Talk
No,
to me about that.
no, interesting. I meant to bring this up. So in Florida, everybody knows or may know what a notary public is.
Yeah, sure.
Right. You go get a document notarized.
Yeah.
Witness and jurat and things like that. But in the state of Florida, you're basically a public official of the state.
Okay.
The governor's office actually commissioned you.
Okay.
Right. So some people may know, some people, there's other things that a notary can do aside from notarizing documents.
Tell us what those are.
So, for example, in Florida, you can marry people, you can perform weddings.
Okay.
And it's and those are great things. Those are fun things to do. So,
have you done any weddings?
Yeah, I did. So it's fun. It's really fun. And, to think that I can perform a wedding and two people so but a lot of people kind of anyway. There's about 4
So you
million.
should say notary and wedding doer.
Well, you can be a wedding, not a crasher. I don't know, man. Wedding performer.
Wedding planner.
Wedding planner.
Wedding
Anyway,
performer.
Yeah. But anyway, so
what else besides doing weddings?
So, well, here's the interesting thing. So you can witness, you can notarize, but that's
But you said something about bonding. I don't know.
Yeah. So in the state of Florida, the governor's office, basically, regulates that. So there's 20 bonding agency. We're a bonding agency, and basically the state contracts us to submit and complete the applications. Like for example, if you want to become a notary, you're going to come to us, you'll do a search or whatever, and then say, hey, I want to become a notary, and contact us. And there's a very simple process. The state of Florida requires an education that you have to read up, and there's a course, and you get certified saying that you completed this 3-hour education course.
So you bond people to be notaries.
Yeah, that's a part of it, but also we process the applications electronically. And then believe it or not, the state of Florida, they still require the paper application. So anyway, so we're one of the 20 bonding agencies. And then what we'll do is we'll submit the application and then bond them. In other words, that's a part of the insurance process as well. And then we provide them with a notary seal and insurance if they're interested in other hardware items and things like that. So. But yeah, it's an interesting part of our business as well. So getting back to what what we're talking about, how the chamber, those are things that we would love to provide those services to our members. Not only people think about to get a document notarized, but maybe you're a realtor, maybe you're an attorney, maybe you have staff that would want to. And a lot of times people are already notaries and they don't even know it. Sometimes we'll come across people.
That was interesting because I was just thinking to myself is, being, the health insurance, being an insurance guy, to be able to notarize things is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'd never really come across it very often, but
Sure.
you just never know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And and it's very interesting because through the pandemic, I think the business actually we saw growth in that side of our business.
Yeah.
Because why? It's side gigs. Everybody nobody was working, so do it as a side gig. They have what they call like signing agents, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's interesting, because
Yeah.
there's 4 million notaries at any time, I think at last count in the state of Florida.
Well,
So yeah.
Well, Charles, CK, it's been great to have you here
Thank you.
today. Again, like to thank the Community News and thank the South Dade Chamber's members for coming every week and talking about their businesses and their opportunities. We're excited about growing up the South Dade market. In a couple weeks, we're going to be hosting the state of South Dade. I'm looking forward to that happening in February, where we're going to have a number of elected officials talk about what we're doing with South Dade. So again, thank you very much, Charles, CK, and we'll see you soon.